Ready?
Ready.
I am sitting down with the incredible Jodi Fife today, and it is such a pleasure to have you on a podcast. This is our second time recording a podcast, if you remember.
Yes.
There was once upon a time, a few years ago, as I was starting my first business, that we were introducing the world to Eden at the time, and it was you and Devin on a podcast, and look how far we've come. So, tell the audience who you are and what you're about.
Crazy. Well, my name is Jodi Fife, and I'm the founder and CEO, I guess, general utility, of the Paramount Group. We've been in business now for 15 years, and it's been a crazy, wild ride. We're a group of hospitality brands. Off-premise catering is Paramount Events. Farm-to-table restaurant is Eden. Fuel Good is a business dining solutions. And then all of our staff come through our staffing arm called Lake Street Staffing. So it's been a complete and utter joy in all of the best ways.
Yep. And when we think about why this podcast exists, Event Logistics Lab,
Wow.
I couldn't have a better guest on than someone who is running a staffing agency, quasi-corporate dining program, full off-premise catering, which is paving the way and leading the charge in the Chicago and Chicagoland area, and a restaurant, all happening simultaneously under one big umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few logistics, would you say?
Just a little. I think about when I hear friends or family say like, wow, I'm busy today. And I think about, okay. It's all relative and you have to keep that in mind. And then I look at my watch at the end of the day and I've walked over 32,000 steps.
Yeah.
So it's logistics in so many ways. Logistics in the brain, logistics on your feet, logistics, juggling. And I think with off-premise catering, it's never going to be perfect. The client will think it's perfect, but it's utter chaos, and it's managing everyone to make sure that you get the best result at the end.
Yeah, it's events, right? Like
100%.
No matter what, for an off-premise event, if we hone in on Chicago, where we have these beautiful venues that don't have kitchens in them,
correct,
that don't have ovens in them,
correct,
right? We are building everything from top to bottom to make these high-touch restaurant quality experiences happen for, if it's a nonprofit event, these tables that at sometimes can go for $50,000 to $150,000, make it feel seamless.
Exactly.
And what happens behind the scenes is sometimes we're building that kitchen in a parking garage, right? And we are
the field.
Yeah, covering every surface because food sanitation qualities can't dip just because there's not a kitchen on site, right?
Absolutely not.
So as I'm thinking about this conversation that I think is going to be impactful for our listenership and people who are doing exactly this, right? Event logistics and operations, is following that journey from event inquiry through event execution in just how many hands and pieces of paper or systems or emails that go in through that life cycle.
Yeah.
So starting that journey, I would say let's focus in on kind of a catered event.
Okay.
I don't want to take us into the world of weddings because the majority of our audience is going to come from corporate or non-weddings.
Sure. We do a lot of corporate, so.
And some of those corporate events have way more logistics than a wedding from a venue that we know like the back of our hand, right?
Absolutely.
So if I am a corporate organization saying, I just want to have dinner for my executives in our boardroom on the 45th floor of our office building, talk me through what goes through your team's mind or your mind when an inquiry like that comes through.
So the best scenario I can paint for you to get people to understand, because the most important thing is the budget. Because if we're not in the right playing field with budget, none of it makes a difference, and we're not going to be able to make it work. So I always say to people, okay, if you and a friend went to Gibson's for dinner on a Friday or Saturday night, you walked in, you had a drink at the bar, sat down, you had a cocktail, you had some wine, you have, you know, an hors d'oeuvre, an appetizer, salad, dinner, entree, some sides, and dessert. The two of you would leave there spending a minimum of $500. Minimum.
Not per person, but
Total.
your total bill,
Total.
right?
And that is minimum, without gratuity. So I think that when you look at that and you say, okay, I know where Gibson's is, I can understand that, but that is a restaurant in a building that they're paying rent for, and how many people were working? Well, there's a host, there's managers, there's busboys, there's servers, there's food runners, there's back waiters, there's bartenders, there's chefs, culinary people, cooks, dishwashers, porter, all of that. All of that makes up why that meal costs that much. And I think people don't realize how many people it takes. So when you kind of extrapolate the Gibson's experience and you multiply that, and this is just for food and beverage, by 20, 30, 40, the minimum of walking in someplace starts at $250.
Yeah, and I think that's a gift at $250,
100%.
right? Like,
and that's not saying it's a fillet or anything else. That's saying just to go there and to get it and to have the food, the beverage, and the equipment, this is what it's going to look like. Now, if you want to talk about a menu, if you want a curated menu, if you want beef coming from the singing cows in Wisconsin, you know what I mean? Like all of those different types of things. If you're having an event in January versus September, the food's more expensive. And I think that in people's mind, well, it's January, nothing's going on, so it's less expensive. And so I think everything has shifted so much.
Sure.
And one thing that the pandemic did bring is some eye-opening about our industry, that the people who work in it are essential.
Yeah.
Just like a hospital. You need to be able to perform a surgery, you need to have operation, you need to get medicine. Well, guess what? Food is medicine. And if you're working with the right people, the food that they're serving you should be able to get you through the day, get you through the week. It helps your mind, it helps your body. It's as essential as water and oxygen. And so, one, you get what you pay for, but two, there's a lot of people that make up every single event that you do, whether it's for 10 people or 10,000.
Yep. So breaking that down of like none of those bodies exist with a shift and a role in this scenario of
Correct.
we are building something in an office building to
100%.
create this experience,
100%.
right? So talk me through like the staffing component is one of those areas. Obviously the food and beverage is another piece of that with variability in those costs
100%.
based on how custom you want the menu, how many courses we are serving, right? But then there's this piece of relationship or like a blind spot, I will say, for some corporate planners that don't understand the equipment needed.
Absolutely. So I think, if you go to a hotel, a banquet center, a country club, those all have a room with tables, chairs, tabletop, forks, knives, spoons, glassware. There's kitchens to cook from in the back. Everything is part of the overall box. So I say that, when you go into those spaces, everything is already there. And there's also a kitchen to do everything. And there's also staff that gets called in to do those events. When you're calling an off-premise caterer to say, I want to do an event at XYZ building in the city of Chicago, there's a lot of things that go into it. You get a call, you get an email, whatever it is, and then we take them through a journey.
Yeah.
Who are you? What company are you with? what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of the meeting? If it's a board meeting that they have just done something super exciting and it's positive, totally different mind frame than, hey, we had a bad quarter and we need to talk about something, there needs to be cuts. That's a different mood and a mode. And I think that one of the things that people don't realize is that we're here to create an experience. And that experience is going to be what they remember, regardless of the meeting, regardless of anything, because at the end of the day, people gather around food.
Yep.
And it creates community and all of those great things. But I think that when you have a meeting like that, the person you're working with needs to understand why they're coming there. We're not the kind of people that are just coming to serve food. We're coming there to serve a meal, to take care of people, to make people feel good. And so we need to ask all of the questions. There's a lot of questions that have to be detailed out, from where is the office? What building in the office? What kind of insurance do we need to get into the office? Is that already set up? Certain buildings, it takes over an hour to get into.
Sure.
For security and everything else, which is wonderful and I totally understand, but that's an added hour that people don't realize. So to take a step back, it's one, we would much rather be on the phone. Email is great, but I think talking and hearing, looking at people through a virtual call, kind of getting all of the details as of what the whys are that we're coming there. And we have to ask about budget. What is your expectation? If your expectation is to spend $100, that's not going to happen. We can't do it.
Yeah.
We have drop off, and we're happy to send drop off food, but realistically, if you want something that's a different level and you want to give people that restaurant experience, you need to have everything a restaurant would have. So taking you through a proposal is really important, and the education behind what we do. So you're ordering the food, you're ordering the drinks, the beverages, and it's not just water. You have to have sodas, you have to have LaCroix, you have to have, this CEO likes iced tea, this person likes black coffee, this person, wants Coors Light in a glass bottle, this person wants, the best Rayburn Chardonnay, that's, you know what I mean? So you have a lot of different people's needs and wants and expectations that have to be met. So you have to go through that story and understand what all of that is, because you don't want anyone to feel that they got snubbed.
Yep.
And so then you're going to talk about the food. Let's talk about the food. Are there any allergies? Are there, likes, dislikes, religious beliefs? There's so many things around food these days. It's not just, I'll send you a menu. We have no printed collateral. We have nothing. Everything we do is designed from phone calls. So when you're on a phone talking through what you're looking for, is that person vegan? Are they vegetarian, gluten-free, nut-free? Do they have celiac? All of those different types of things come up in conversations. When people say to me, we don't have any of that, that's a red flag.
Sure.
And we make a note, we need to come back to that. But going on from there, now you've talked about the food and the beverage, then you have equipment.
Yeah.
So does the room have a table to eat at? Does the room need linen, or does it need placemats? Does the company have china, silverware, glassware? Even if they do, it's usually not to the level that matches the experience that they're trying to provide. So then we have to bring in the rental equipment. And then staff.
Yeah.
So I think what people don't realize the most is how many people it takes to do something. And today it takes more than it used to.
Yeah.
And as it should have always been this way. But, we look at things, so there's an event manager, and that person is in charge of the party. The salesperson will show up, say thank you, help, do whatever's needed, but that event manager is the person running your event. So it's like the GM of a restaurant.
Yep.
Okay? And so then, depending on how many people you have or the level of service or service style, you could potentially need captains. So a captain is, a manager. Then you need servers, and everybody is different with this. If you're having a large event, you want 1 per 10. Okay? If you're having a small event, you need 1 per 5.
Right.
Hands down, and that's a non-negotiable, because no matter what, it doesn't make the experience good. You think someone didn't show up, and it always looks bad on you, which in turn looks bad on the client, the people paying for it. So you really have to talk through what those steps are. You also then need a bartender if drinks are going to be made. You might need multiple bartenders. You're going to need culinary staff. A head chef has to be on an event, and then you have sous chefs that are on events. And people will say, well, it's only 4 passed hors d'oeuvres, what does it matter? Well, every one of our 4 passed hors d'oeuvres is handmade, made on site, and made with our hands. And so in order to get those hors d'oeuvres out in that hour-long cocktail event, we need 4 people assembling those 4 passed hors d'oeuvres. And so we're not the norm. We're more on the edge of more staff than normal, but we know what it takes. And quite honestly too, what we've learned is that someone's gonna have a bad day. Someone's not gonna be in the right moment. Someone's just not gonna be in the right headspace. Someone is going to maybe start feeling under the weather. And so no matter who you have, you can't set your staff up to not be successful.
Yeah.
So the number of people is, something that we live by, and it's usually the biggest struggle with clients. They don't want to put the money in the staffing, or they see us compared to 3 of our competitors, and we're always going to be more expensive. And we'll explain why. The number one reason: all of our staff works for us. All of our staff, we all have the same health insurance, medical, dental, eye, all of it. We also have a 401k with a match. Like, they get free meals. We do a lot of time on training and development. Like, we're trying to make them feel as important as the people that are running these board dinners that they're servicing, because they are. We're all the same. And so when you can try to explain that to people and get them to understand what it is that these people have to do, because then when you get to the point where they say, okay, great, we've gone back and forth, this is what we've decided, and then you really see the amount of people that work on the event. The salesperson is processing the order.
Yep.
And processing the order means to work with a antiquated at best system, where you're putting information in, and then you have to use another system to put our staff into, and then you have to call in the rental orders or email, and then you get it back. You have to call in or email about linen orders, and then you get those back. You put everything together, you create a proposal, it goes to the client. Great. Sign contracts, agree. That paperwork then has to be turned into operations paperwork, which means then it has to be spoken in a way that someone who speaks English, someone who speaks Spanish, someone who might not be able to read, someone who, there's all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, that paperwork has to be given out to a kitchen that has a lot of different people that have a lot of different brains that work in a lot of different ways. So the paperwork is one of the most important things, so that whoever's working on something can really make sure that they are speaking clearly enough to where someone can see what they need to do, all of the steps to prepare the food correctly, but at the same time we want to meet everyone's expectations. So then we have series of meetings. So the paperwork is done, it gets distributed. Now keep in mind, there's the catering software, there's the staffing software. They don't connect currently. API is supposedly coming this year. So then we have to put it in by hand, which means you're taking the information and retyping it into another set of the catering software. But during that time, we're human beings. So transposing of numbers.
Or a client changes their mind.
A client
right?
changes their mind, whatever the case may be. And we're not even to the point that the client has changed their mind, because we're just getting ready to go through our production meeting. So
Sure.
all of that information is put in. Now, guess what? You also then, all of the things that you've had to call in or email, you have to check your quantities. So equipment, linen, all of that, you have to check your quantities. You have to check the date of delivery, because as we found out recently, we put the wrong date in, and we had a dinner for 650 people, and
Sure.
there was no equipment. And guess what? It was set for a different day.
And that's like, it's as simple as a fat finger that we we call it in tech. It's as simple as a wrong year, different day. It is not hard to do
No.
at all.
Not at all. And so anybody who says, oh, well, that's a silly mistake, then is not human. They're not normal because we've all done it. And so once we are in that production meeting and going through the process, yes, everyone is looking at their laptop and they're looking at the paperwork and they're going through everything. But all of a sudden, all of the information that is on the screens that everyone is looking at, there's changes that need to be made.
Yep.
There's changes that need to be made because maybe there's a spelling error. There's changes that need to be made because that vegetable is no longer in season. We can't get that anymore. This is what we're currently getting for the market. We have to adjust that. A sauce, maybe there's a fish that is not sustainably sourced anymore, so we can't purchase that. We have to make a change on that. All of a sudden, there's a fluctuation in beef pricing.
Sure.
So then you're looking at that. At the same time, you're going through the menu from start to finish. You're also going through all of the staffing. You're going through all of the equipment, everything, all of the beverage, the pack out. Then you're also going through, well, wow, what do we need to bring to this event to make it successful? And from doing this for so long, we have kits.
Yep.
We have a blue box, a red box, an orange box, and a green box. All of those boxes are for different things. One is if there's cooking at the event, one is if there's beverages at an event, coffee service, what have you. So those have to be included. Then what about the floor? Where are we working in? What kind of floor covering do you need? So production meeting this week took about 9.5 hours.
Sure.
And that is going through 5 days of events.
Yep.
So it's a lot.
And we're touching all of those departments, bringing it back to your statement about this is in addition, in supplement to the people actually working the event. This is the production team behind the event.
Scenes.
You know?
So you're not even being paid for these people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when they look at the staff on the invoice, it's like, oh, but just so you know, there's a team of about 20 people that will touch your event, have a say in your event, and make sure that your event goes well.
Yep.
Before it leaves the building.
I want to do a little bit of a cliff notes of what you just walked us through, because there were so many good things that you said that just illustrate what event planning and event logistics are, right? What caught my ear at the first time is like, you aren't selling food and beverage, right? When you're hiring Paramount Events, or if you're booking private dining in Eden's private dining room, or you're talking about Fuel Good corporate dining contracts, like, we are selling experiences.
100%.
Right? It is, what are we trying to achieve from this event, of which food and beverage might be a focus of it, but ultimately it can be a choose your own adventure. What is the experience, and how are the expectations of the experience going to dictate the event logistics, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And down to the floor coverings, right, is set by the experience of the goals of the event, right?
Absolutely.
There's different ways to meet a quote unquote budget. You brought up drop off in your telling as well, right? Like, but does that meet the expectations? You can't drop off filet cooked to temperature,
No.
you know?
Beef is out of the question.
Exactly. So what are the expectations of that experience, and what is that going to cost?
And I think one of the things is where have these meetings been in the past?
Yep.
Where have you done these? What cities have you done them in? Let me see menus that you've had. Because what I want to do is I pretty much know, and the team knows, the restaurants in town and out of town, like the price points of them. And so we don't want the menus to copy something. We do what we do. We want to see what you've paid in the past, because it might be easier to say, hey, we're going to recommend you go to a restaurant and use a private dining room.
Right.
It's way more cost effective than to do this in your building, in your space, and have us come in and do it. Now, I understand a lot of people like the privacy, like the special feeling. It is truly an experience, you know, and if you're working with, you know, one of our top chefs, and you're having, you know, a sommelier at the meal or a mixologist, I mean, we can do a Linea style, we can do Charlie Trotter style, like, it can be over the top. Again, there's a cost associated to it, but we also can do drop off.
Yep.
So it's there's something for everyone, but the expectation and people being clear. And I think where we have the most, I would say, issue, concern, or areas that are troubling is that when the person who is booking with us doesn't understand or the main client doesn't communicate effectively what the end result is.
Yeah.
And so expectations, we need to know what those expectations are before we can make something happen.
Then as you're talking about this variability that can happen from first call and consult through execution,
Absolutely.
and just the amount of hands this information changes to produce the expectation of what came from ultimately 1 to maybe 3 conversations
100%.
sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pressure on the front end to get it right,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then there is a exorbitant amount of pressure on the back end to fulfill the expectations of what
Exactly.
the paperwork says.
Exactly. And if you think about, go back to the pin I put in, the woman that said there was no allergies.
Yep.
So that is going to be something that no matter what, even when someone says it, we still bring stuff for allergies. Like, we try as hard as possible to do all of our entrees gluten-free. It's just an easier, you can bounce around, you can make something happen. We try to do vegetarian, no longer as vegetarian, we do it as vegan.
Yep.
And so that it's just easier. And so we plan for backup, whether it's 10%, 15, 20%. And it's also one of the most important questions through the journey that we ask is, please tell us about the demographic.
Yeah.
And it's not profiling, it's so that we know how to serve your client, what to serve the client. I know based on the ethnic makeup, the temperature that the beef needs to be cooked. It's just, it doesn't change. I also know that if there's, a large contingency, if we're doing something in medical and there's a large Indian population, that we're going to need a lot of vegetarian, or they're not going to eat pork. Like, all of these different things, it's so important. And then also looking at religious calendars and what time of year it is. On Fridays during Lent, there's no meat. And so I think people take for granted or get frustrated by the questions, but the questions are meant for us to be successful, to then make the experience successful.
Yeah, especially when the on-site experience is, if you say on-site, oh, that wasn't communicated to us, right? It's not the planner or the admin or the whomever you were working with that's taking the heat. It's this caterer really messed it up,
all the time.
And that holds true for the hotels or the convention centers or the, any sort of supplier vendor that is going to be coming in to do this fulfillment piece of it. We're only as good as the information that's given, and we are only as good as the experience to say we've been burned this many times that we make our standards meet for the on-site dietary request
100%.
or the extra staff person, because we might have known that someone could have called off or staffing could have been tight for this particular event, right?
Absolutely.
Bringing some data, and that's a perfect segue into your demographic information, is with emerging technologies, with emerging AI, and how we bring this into events in a meaningful way. Like, everything that you just rattled off is not super trackable, right? It's knowledge through experience.
100%.
As we're thinking about training a junior salesperson to ask the right questions, right? Like, that is where the data piece of this comes into purview. Like, what is your Cliff Notes, or what is your data set? How is that integrated into the systems or into the inquiry form to make sure that the right questions are being asked? And secondary question to that is, like, do you believe in current state or future state that process of getting the experience right can be made through an AI chatbot?
Okay, Gregory, I have ADHD, so let's
one
be real.
question at a time.
I need one question at a time. So now that you've said the second one, I don't even remember the first one.
Yep.
So please repeat the first one.
First one is, as you are currently training a new
Yes.
salesperson, like, how is that data knowledge appearing in inquiry forms, training guides?
Sure.
Like, how do we get all of that experience data out of your head into someone else's brain?
So that would be in an inquiry form, exactly what it is. And literally the inquiry form is the journey of the event. So for a corporate event, it's going to ask you the date of the event, the time, the time of day, where it's taking place at, what floor it's taking place, what suite number it's taking place at. Do we have visuals? If not, we have to plan to have a site visit. Then it's asking you, ask the why questions. What is this meeting for? What type of people are going to be there? What are the demographics? What, is there food all day long if you're having a dinner? Or is this, they've not had a lot to eat? Because all of those things matter. And if they have had meals before, what are the menus? Because we don't want to serve something similar. We want to serve something different to make sure it's a good experience.
Yep.
And so all of those questions are lined up, and literally they have to go through. It's like Bible. You go through, and when you don't answer one of those questions, the first thing that happens, you're going to end up calling the people back or emailing them because you've missed it.
Yep.
Sometimes there's clients that literally now will just say, hey, I filled out the questionnaire, and we'll send it because they understand the power in the information. And all of it does is just helps us do our job better. And everyone thinks at first, oh boy, here's another piece of paper, here's another form, here's something. But really what it does, it condenses, it helps ask the right questions, it helps, really gather the information that maybe that person might not need, but somebody in the planning process is going to need. So I think, also one of the biggest things is, are there any people with disabilities? And what do those disabilities look like? Do we have to have a certain table height? Do we have to,
Sure.
From menuing, from sound to senses to all of those types of things? And I think more so now than ever, I think that more people have something that might not be communicated clearly, or that they even want people to know. But even as simple sometimes of having extra texture on the napkins really makes people be able to sit still and sit at a dinner meeting. And I can say that because I have a son.
I also can't make it through any sort of gala dinner without tying my napkin into a knot.
Not doing a butterfly
Yeah,
origami. Yeah, no, I mean it's life experience, and again, those are not things that you don't know what someone doesn't know. And so I think one of the biggest things that I have learned is that every single time I say something, no one knows what I'm talking about. And I say that, and it's not being disrespectful for myself, but it's being like, okay, you just said something, stop assuming everybody knows what you mean. And take a step back and explain the why behind it.
Yeah.
Why this is happening, why we're doing this, and why is it going to make the event better. And I think that that's age, and experience. And the more that you can do that, especially with younger people, and having visuals. So the other thing we like to ask people is, do you have a mood board? Do you have something that you can
Sure.
send us that you like the look of? Because you're telling me that we're gonna go put an event on in a conference room at a high-rise building, which there's a lot of beautiful ones, but it's still a conference room. So if there's an expectation for it to be, dark and moody or bright and fun or whatever it is, asking for that, and that's part of the questionnaire that we're asking people. And you would be surprised, but we get a lot of mood boards because these people like to make mood boards.
Yeah. Well, and it's framing out, it's giving some context. So back to this second piece of this question is, if I'm having this conversation with an AI chatbot, right? And I am filling out all of those questions and I'm giving full detail, what's the magic in between, right? Or do you think it is possible that if I go through this AI chatbot experience to tell you all about the event that I'm planning, do you think we can get to a place where the output of that can be menu recommendations and equipment specking and right? Or there's just so much variability in between the lines.
I think it's great access. I think what it does is it kind of helps and hurts from a client perspective, because a client will go in and say, what is it going to cost for me to do this? And AI will the bot will spit out the knowledge it has based on what they've put in, what they've gathered. So it doesn't mean that you're doing that in Chicago, Illinois, in the city, like that. And that's the missing piece, because Chicago is the second most expensive city behind New York for events. So it almost takes the overall map of Illinois, and so then you get like Carbondale, Peoria mixed in with Chicago. So your skew is totally off, and so that can be frustrating. Also, I think there's a human element. For me, I'm all about having live conversations with people because I can read people. You can talk about something and I can see if they light up, if they make a face, like if they
Yeah.
know even what I'm talking about. And it's our job as the expert to be able to communicate effectively what needs to be done to make their event successful. And so having a chatbot plan, organize, do pack sheets, pack the event, like it's just, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff it could do, and I think there's value there, and definitely stuff that needs to be looked at, but I think a human is always going to be necessary because we feel.
Yeah. Back to your experience point, back to the reading people point that you just made, of a lot of events, for the lack of a Gen Z term, are about vibes, right? Like,
All about the vibes.
what you communicate and what you say or what you write in an email does go through an experience filter to produce the wow moment at the end.
100%.
Right? And AI isn't currently good at vibes, right? AI is good at, you put an input in and you get an output out,
Yes.
right? There isn't the synthesis piece of that. Now, to the point of where AI can collaborate with our teams, right? Create efficiency in the process.
Sure.
There's for sure a way to put that information in, have a few follow-up questions, compile it all together, and give you a V1 draft to look at of something that creates efficiency in your process, right?
Absolutely.
So very, very interesting. On the second half of this is the culinary side of that. And
that's not a chatbot.
it never can be.
No.
Right? Like in robotics where they currently stand, you can't julienne the red pepper to the vibe that we're going for.
Exactly.
From robotics, from AI, from the ability to add your chefiness to it, right?
100%.
So following the logistics through this event, where there is efficiency probably to be earned through technology.
100%.
There is an equal strong case that the human element is what makes events give that wow factor or be that magical
100%.
experience, right?
100%. I mean, if you think about the best moments in your life have something to do with food. It has to do with sitting around a table, looking at someone in the eye, and eating this unbelievable meal, having this great service, being taken care of, getting your water, getting your wine. But at the same time, when you put something in your mouth and the flavors are correct, be it the acid, the citrus, the salt, the pepper, the heat, whatever it is, it's magic. And that's a human being doing that. And you only get true magic like that when someone truly cares about the products that they're sourcing and the way that they're putting the ingredients together. Like, you can buy everything pre-made, you're not gonna get that feeling.
Yep.
You know when something is different, exciting, magical. It's because it was made from someone who is excited about it, who has love and passion, and the vibe comes from within and needs to be on the plate. And then that bite goes in your mouth, and that's how your event transcends. And that's really what makes an event experience amazing.
Yeah, at any level, right?
Any level.
From back to our drop-off style event to the highest end gala or multi-end, high-end conference, full day offsite sales, whatever we're doing, right? It is going to be made magical by what's said between the lines versus what the input and output is.
100%. 100%. And if you have happy people who love what they're doing, what they're going to do is provide something that is, 100% different and better than someone who's coming in, it's a paycheck and it doesn't matter. And, it might seem funny or weird or, it's just a job, but in food, it's not just a job. There's like, there's something, it's like a sickness that we have. It's an obsession, it's a passion. And I think that the more that we're driven by uniqueness, different, being as locally sourcing or seasonality as possible, but it's also you're feeding people to allow them to do the next thing in the meeting, to do the next thing at the gala, to do the next thing at the conference. And how did they feel during that is it makes a difference how they show up.
Yeah.
So when you, as a leader, are saying, okay, I want this experience for my staff, I want this, but I don't want to pay for this, I don't want to pay, you really don't want that experience. If you want the experience, there's a cost that's associated with it, and it's not overcharging, it's not gouging, it's paying all of those people along that journey the correct wages and giving them health care so that they can have a good life, just like the executives in that room.
Well, and the ROI is going to be there on the other end, right?
100%.
If you are doing it the right way and you are making the investment in that experience, chances are your auction bids are going to be that much higher,
100%.
right? Because people aren't going to be talking about the meal; they're going to be talking about how good the meal was and how much attention went into detail, right?
And is there enough servers passing enough wine?
Yep.
Because we know that liquid courage helps people bid more
That's right.
at auctions, and that's a given. But I just think that it's all about the budget and the expectations that people have and making sure people are aligned.
Yeah, I hope people listening to this are going to take away just how much human goes into one single event. And regardless if you're doing a multi-day conference or someone's wedding or a corporate dinner in an office building, like there are so many people that come together to make that experience possible. Thinking back from our conversation, any closing thoughts of like what you hope people get out of listening to this?
Yeah, I think the more that people can listen, and I view that any relationship we have with the client is a true partnership. We don't want a one-hit wonder. We're not going to steer you in the wrong direction or gouge or overcharge just to have one piece of business. We feel like we're on a journey with clients, and so we hope that we pair correctly with clients that are looking for, the good, the culinary team that wants to make things the right way, the staffing that's trained correctly. Are we going to make mistakes? 100%, but we're also going to own up the minute we make a mistake and figure out how to fix it and make it better going forward. But I think that if people could realize the amount of people that go into every step of every event, just from the food side, we're not even talking about the planning, but it's just, that goes into the catering aspect, it's a lot.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for being a mentor, a friend, an experienced voice in this industry, especially specific to Chicago. And thanks for taking the time with me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Done.
Sorry, I stumbled a couple of times.
Oh.